Good evening, everybody.
And welcome to Commentary is Magic's live stream for Deck Discourse on today, September 3rd, 2017. I am, as always, Grandpaws.
I am Emperor Bugle.
Big Cheese.
And the currently getting trumpeted at Aracat.
Trumpet noises.
Trumpet.
It's been a busy day for one of us, hasn't it?
I don't know.
No? You like getting up early and doing streams and then staying up late and doing streams? It's just like the last month for all of us.
Right.
How glad are we to have a bit of a break here? And by bit of a break, I mean keep producing content.
Well, breaks? What are breaks?
Hey, I don't have like 8 hours of travel and staying in hotels and being up super late, and this is much better.
I mean, the being up super late part is not necessarily exclusive with producing content.
This is true.
But we are glad to be here. It's been fun. And thanks to Meticulous Talks for sitting down and interviewing Bugle earlier this morning. If any of our viewers have not yet seen them, they've got a YouTube channel and do a podcast, once every 2 weeks?
Yes, once every 2 weeks, Sundays at
9,
7,
I believe.
9 Pacific.
Yeah, 9 Pacific.
Early Pacific.
9 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah. Yes, 9 a.m. That's true. So definitely something you should check out.
Yes.
But for now, we are here to talk about more decks. Specifically,
Decks.
Specifically, a pair of control decks this time around. And ones that adopt very different philosophies of what the right way to control is.
Oh, yeah. These two decks, despite, they're both control decks, but other than that, they are basically night and day. Like, the only thing I can think of that they have even remotely in common is they both have board wipes.
I mean, they both have mimics.
Okay, they both have mimics.
Is that
you
the only card shared? I think it is.
It might be. It might be the only card shared. But yes.
Are there no Armospies?
No.
No? Okay, then yeah, everything else is colored.
It's radically different.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not even running the same starting problem.
No.
But
do you have blackmails?
I don't have blackmail.
I forget what happened with that.
No, we added blackmail last minute. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so they have blackmails and they have mimics. But other than that, they are night and day.
Quite literally.
And that's okay. Yes, sun and moon, or moon and... I mean, you're not running Celestia.
No, yeah, I would think Final is staying up all night. I mean, they're moon and also moon.
So I guess what we're saying is Celestia is worse princess.
It's a funny way of saying cadence.
Ouch.
I mean, Leo's not...
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Actually, no. I'd say Flurry Heart, but Flurry Heart's not a princess.
We have decks to discuss.
Devil Babby doesn't count. No. We're going to have a best pony war.
Okay, one day we're going to have a stream and discuss Devil Babby, and we're just going to cold open with the Omen.
Oh, dear.
I mean,
hi, Cursed.
I take no responsibility, Cursed. Absolutely none.
To be fair, neither do any of us.
I take responsibility.
Ouch. Anyway.
Yeah, should we get underway here?
Yeah, we've got some decks.
No, I want to argue about best Starburst color now.
I mean, that's clearly cherry.
Well, them some fighting words.
Cherry isn't even a color.
Okay.
Cherry is a flavor. It's also red as a flavor. Anyway, so both of these decks have had some experience recently in the competitive scene. So they've kind of undergone a trial by fire, one of them proving more successful in its efforts than others. But it's, our claims here are not without substance. Each of these decks performs adequately in the current meta, and it's really just up to you, if you're a control player or looking to get into control, to pick which one or which playstyle may end up fitting you better. And before we get into the first deck, perhaps we should mention that the big difference between these two that we're talking about is on consistency versus variety or breadth of answers. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, more or less.
And again, each one is going to have its own strengths and weaknesses. So to start things off,
absolutely.
To start things off, let's take a look at the deck that has what I believe to be the single longest name that has ever been created for a deck before.
Including any game, apparently. I mean,
any game. I cannot think of a deck that has a name longer than this. And this one actually has 3 names.
Okay, so take a deep breath.
Just to spite you, I'm going to make the official name for this set's version of Mosh Pit be the entire content of the Luna's banishment video in a binary representation.
Sure, sounds good. So the first deck that we're covering is a mono orange control deck featuring Princess Luna Dream Guide from Absolute Discord. Its absolute shortest name is Mandatory Subtitles. And if you're wondering why it's called Mandatory Subtitles, well, go find that video that we opened with and watch it and turn on the subtitles and you'll see why. Its more official name is So Now Go Moon 1000 Years Bye Bye Banish Time. And its true name is, deep breath here, We fear you have misunderstood our wishes. We have learned from our misguided ways and wish to atone for our past misdeeds. Allow us but a chance to showeth thou that we have become humbled, just, and kind. Our soul hath been cleansed by the shining light of the moon and wishes for nothing else than to walk the land once again under the fair golden light of our sister. We too could become the best of companions and walk together side by side. I ask for thou to open thy heart and giveth mercy.
Yeah, I'm just going to call it Banish Time.
So now go moon. I
So
think
now-
that's what we generally
Oh,
call
right.
it, but yes.
Yes. So let's go ahead and get the list up and see what we're working with here. Like I said, So Now Go Moon is a mono orange control deck. And that might seem a little odd in the current meta because just about every control deck that we've seen really has to rely on cards in multiple colors to be able to accomplish what it needs to. And the trick here is that orange has been given so many tools recently that it doesn't necessarily need to do that anymore, especially not in the current meta. Orange has options for dealing with aggro through exhaustion and the shutting off of abilities, and setting up troublemakers, of course. It has options for dealing with farming by presenting friends and characters that can easily beat up farming's troublemakers if farming can't, and also runs a ton of earth ponies, which can be very useful in shutting off the abilities of problems like Rock Slide. Of course, Cargo Loader is very strong as well in giving you extra flips, especially with a very high flip average. It has options for dealing with control, in that it can disrupt discard piles, it can disrupt hands, it can disrupt decks, it can exhaust powerful friends that need to exhaust to use their abilities, and it can just wipe the board if it gets too far behind. And it even has options for dealing with combo in the case of shutting off the abilities of particular friends or making sure that recursion loops can't happen. So because of this, there is still a great deal of adaptability, even though you're within one particular color. And that's, like I said, really been a recent development. The key, in my mind, when you're playing Control is to make sure that you are not so single-minded in your focus that you cannot deal with particular types of answers. For example, Bugle. We're going to talk about your deck here as soon as we're done with this one. And in your inclusion of a number of different tools, you basically had to prepare for just about any matchup, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And this, of course, is not really anything new to Control. You know, you can run decks that are going to have nothing but removal for friends. Pink is 100% capable of doing that, and Pink-White is even more capable of doing it. But if that's the only thing that you're focusing on, if that's all you're packing is just friend removal, what do you do when you go up against farming?
Or combo.
Or combo, right. That's the question you have to ask yourself. And so you really have to try to make do with what you can. And the reason that we elected to go mono orange with this deck is because you get that adaptability without having to deal with one of the biggest constraints to control, which is entry. Bugle, how punished were you for entry in earlier versions of Bebop?
We don't talk about that anymore. Those
Everfree.
Nightmare Moon wars, man. Nightmare Moon wars.
And that is something that applies not just to control, of course, but just about any type of deck. It's one of the things that helps make decks like AJ Farming or Ag Steadies very reliable at what they do, is you don't have to deal with getting into a secondary color. You just don't have one. So with that in mind, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's while a secondary color can provide a lot of benefits, it does come with some opportunity costs, and you've decided to swap those with this deck.
Exactly. What is perhaps unusual about this deck is, even though we're using Princess Luna Dream Guide, we're not reusing her like has been done before in decks like Waking Nightmare that attempt to use Chaos Control with Chaos Capital of the World to get her flipped and banish again and flipped and banish again and keep doing that. The initial banishment of an opposing or of an opponent's hand is enough to buy us some time to set up our board state and kind of go from there. At least that was the thought process behind it. Sometimes that worked. Sometimes it didn't. Turns out card draw is really strong in this current meta.
Yep.
When has card draw
So
not
many
been strong?
cards.
Well, I mean, that's fair. DJ's been a card for a while. So, as we've done in previous deck discourses, let's go ahead and look at some of the key cards, just a handful of the key cards that make these decks work. And Cheese, feel free to chime in here, since you ran this at Gen Con, and Ara, feel free to chime in as well, since you just ran this most recently at BronyCon.
Top 2.
Yes, indeed. It's a strong finish.
Especially considering I picked the thing up going into the BronyCon tournament. It's like, so I've never played this deck before.
You weren't the only one from what Grandpa's and I saw.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting.
That was
right?
classic, actually.
So I'm fairly certain Cheese would agree with me here on this one, on the first card. The one that definitely carried a number of our games in Gen Con, Applejack, Captain of the Seven Seas.
Yeah.
Nah.
There was, we can bring that card up if at all possible. Otherwise, that's fine. They can.
We started out with 2 of them, or maybe just 1, and then it went to 5. So.
And that kind of became the phrase for the weekend: is, hey, you know what's better than 2 Cattajacks?
5 Cattajacks.
Turns out Xerox being able to copy a Cattajack that's in play for 2 AT less than what you have is kind of strong.
Yeah, people expect the 5 AT Captain Jack. They don't expect the 3 AT Captain Jack.
And this was especially useful in this meta as well, because with the exception of farming, just about every other deck out there was playing wide in terms of its board position. Vinyl's Bag of Tricks had to rely on numerous friends to maintain an AT advantage and also keep a recursion engine going. And that was, and not just Vinyl's Bag of Tricks, but other control decks, other Vinyl control decks. And most aggro decks played as many friends as they could to get a lot of power to win face-offs. We didn't really see the slower mid-range style, although there was some with the AJ Blue.
Yeah, I was about to say they're the AJ Blue deck.
Well, even then, tell me an aggro deck that isn't just like, okay, great, so now I have to make all of my friends except for one go away?
Yeah.
Exactly. And let's not forget, Diligent 1, that does matter sometimes. It is also an optional trigger, or will be clarified as an optional trigger soon. Don't miss that.
Gotta fix it to match the card text.
Yep. So Cattajak is one of the best cards in this deck for allowing you to recover from a board position that many other decks might just find impossible to come back from. I mean, how many times have we played against a Hot Wings player that has just gotten this tremendous board state and looked at all these cards and thought, I can't spend all the resources to be able to, even up the board? And the answer is yes, you can.
It's 5 or 3.
Or 3 if you already have one in play. That's right. So, Catajack, Captain of the Seven Seas, very important. Second card, very important in a number of different archetypes, and also very important because it has the magical number of 4 for its power, and we'll talk about that in a moment as well, is Applejack Carbo Loader.
Buy some apples.
Buy some apples.
Have some pies.
This thing is a saving grace against farming.
In more ways than...
If you can pull them.
I mean, sure.
Or
and this
draw
is
them.
where you'd put your Catajacks, or this is where you'd put your Carbo Loaders if you had
If
one.
I had one!
Yes.
Yes, provided you can pull one of the 3 Carbo Loaders that are present in this deck, it gets very, very strong in terms of being able to not only defend your own troublemakers, but beat them up if you have to. And spoiler alert, you have a few Earth Ponies in this deck. Double spoiler alert, you have a lot of Applejacks in this deck.
So much AJ.
Did
Buy
we
some
figure out
apples.
exactly how many cards do not have AJ featured on them? It's not many.
Not anywhere? Let's see. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, something.
There's like
It's a few.
a few. But that's okay, because there's enough apple that everything else might as well be apple.
Do the changeling Applejacks count?
Of course
Yes.
they do.
Of course they do.
What kind of question is that? So, Carbo Loader is great because, number
There are
one,
no
you're given
changelings in
efficient
this deck.
power. 3 AT for 4 power, which is great. Number 2, you've got a ton of Earth Ponies, so the teamwork is going to synergize very, very well. Number 3, the extra flip that you've got just from having one of these can often be enough to just shut down farming cold, especially the friendless farming, like built off of Feathers version, that just relies on Applejack Ambassador of Honesty as its really only Earth Pony that's going to be in play. You drop a Carbo Loader over to Rock Slide, now you're flipping even, and you can exhaust the Carbo Loader on your opponent's turn to get an extra flip. That means that at the very least, you're forcing your opponent to spend extra resources to try to win that important face-off. And in some cases, they won't have those resources to spend. And then you turn around and you beat up Aoizotl and you steal their power, and then it just kind of snowballs. Would you say that's
Arakat wouldn't
inaccurate?
know anything about that.
Arakat wouldn't know anything about the God Hand.
Know anything about that? No. Doesn't have anything to do with managing to land an Earth Pony on turn 2 against the farming deck.
I mean, it might. It's certainly possible. So that's another very good card, and one that we definitely do want to see 3 of. The third
So
key card,
yeah, have any key cards that aren't Applejack?
I mean,
Starlight?
Starlight is a good card and is important against a number of different decks, but she's not one of the main key ones that we have listed down here.
Yeah.
No.
So card number 3, and yet another one that we're running in triplicate, go figure, is Appaloosa. Man, is this card important in the meta right now. Look at the amount of dismissal, look at the amount of
Pink?
frightening. Blue? I know, right? Who would have thought?
All these
Pink and blue? I
all
don't
these
remember.
villains and scary things and dismissy things and
Belly flops, food fights, all kinds of stuff.
Well, we certainly didn't have 9 pink decks and 7 blue decks in top 16 at Gen Con. We certainly didn't.
I mean, not exclusive to each other now.
Well, no.
So Appaloosa is, of course, a great resource in that every one of our friends that has 4 or more power cannot be dismissed or frightened as long as Appaloosa is in play. And what's even better is we have ways to find Appaloosa, and for that matter, our other resources as well, with Applejack Farm Formare. So even if we don't draw one of these naturally, there's a very good chance we can just get into it by looking 5 cards deep. And if
or
you look,
you could whiff on stream like Arakat.
Yeah.
I mean, well, that was more Chrono Trigger's fault, and it's also part of the reason why I'm putting her in the corner for this stream. She's a bad pony, and she knows what she did. She knows what she did.
She won me a couple of games, is what she did.
I mean, that's fair. Sometimes she blows up, and it's real good. Other times she's about to blow up, and then you say no. So Appaloosa is very crucial in terms of protecting most of the friends that we're going to have that are going to either disrupt our opponents significantly or give us a powerful board state that we need to maintain. Specifically, Limestone Pie is protected. Our singleton copy of Lasso Champion to basically permanently exhaust a main character is protected. Applejack Carbo Loader is protected. And one that a lot of people miss is the Smooths can also be protected if we are using him to eat non-friend cards from discard piles.
Yeah, really the only interesting thing that's not protected is POW.
Right. And in there's just a single copy. It is unfortunate that POW is not protected and that we don't have ways to move power counters around here, but we do have one copy of Woe There Nelly in the event he does get dismissed. And he already can't be frightened.
Yeah.
So that's not that bad. The Smooths, I believe, does deserve a special mention just from the number of times that we would play the Smooths in various tournaments, and the response from the opponent would be, sure, what color?
No.
Yeah.
Wrong Smooths. In fact, yeah, this is a good moment to talk about that. The Smooth Scavenger is probably one of the stranger choices to include in here because it doesn't really seem to synergize with the other things that we have here going on. I mean, yes, it's nice to have big power, but what is that really in there for? And the answer is that is the option to either recursion-based control decks or combo decks that are using recursion engines without forcing us to splash into purple for cards like Destiny Drain or Magical Misfire. And that is very, very important.
It'd be a darn shame if your F-stops quit working, wouldn't they?
I mean, F-stop still works. Sort of.
Sort of.
It just has no.
This is where I'd exhaust F-stop and pay 1 to recover an event from my discard. If there was one!
So this is just another point that you can make that there are tools that exist outside of what you might associate with, or there are tools that exist outside of the color you might associate with that particular effect. Banishment is not exclusive to purple. Banishment from discard piles, I should say.
Yeah, by the way, that's immediate speed too, so hooray.
Yep.
No, white has one too, keep in mind.
Yes, they do. That's why I said outside of the main color, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Heck, yellow even has one.
Yellow does.
And then the last card, and I'm going to cheat on this because Beagle's going to cheat on this in a moment here. I'm actually splitting this into two. Is our main exhaustion effects. And these are either Popping Corn for decks that like to go wide or Bailout for decks that like to go deep. And by that, I mean decks that like to play a lot of friends, we're going to play Popping Corn so that we can hit basically all of them because they're likely going to be 3 power or less. And for decks that are relying on singleton characters or might be carried by a singleton character more so than other cards.
Thunderlane.
Sure, Thunderlane seems like a good one to bail out. Then we can hit that and basically lock that friend down for a good 2 turns. It's also quite nice to be able to bail out an F-stop as soon as it comes into play.
Also, it is a discard outlet for Luna if you didn't get a chance to use your starting problem.
Yep. If you absolutely have to, you can use Bailout to flip Luna. Although, oftentimes you can also just draw to be in excess of your hand, which is one of the key advantages of Luna is there's basically not much your opponent can ever do to stop you from flipping Luna. So with these tools, you've got the ability to control a board if it goes too wide and to protect yourself once you have set your opponent back. Hiding behind a Changeling Mimics at 1 or more problems can be a great way to stop DFOs. It's like Changeling Mimics makes playing Dilemmas really expensive or something.
It's great. So great.
It's a bit, Bugle, I'm going to publicly shame you here. It's a bad card and you should feel bad. Bad pony.
But I likes it.
Yeah, I know you do. It should be 2 bonus.
That's not my fault.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's kind of your fault.
It's totally your fault.
Do I need the cone of shame?
I mean,
Yes.
maybe. Probably. So you'll see there are some tools in here, and Cheese, maybe you can talk a little bit more about this, and Aura as well. How do Nightmare Moon and Glimmer and Nightmare Star, how do the other troublemakers kind of factor into what's going on here?
So, Nightmare Moon's fun. I mean, Nightmare Moon has just been a good card since forever. General, like, so one of the weaknesses can be with Luna is they get their whole they can just draw and have a big hand again. Nightmare Moon can fix that. Also, getting rid of answers in their hand. It's good to have. And you care, and against certain matchups, you care less about what's in your hand and more about what's on your board than other decks do. Nightmare Star is just good in the against VBot, basically, or any other deck that relies on exhausting everything.
It is worth noting that that's extremely dangerous to play against yourself because it also removes your ability to defend your troublemakers.
Yes. That's why there's only one. But there's only really 2 friends that we care about exhausting in the deck.
3 if you can't POW.
I mean, sometimes.
Yes. Sadly, POW can never protect Nightmare Star.
Yes. But so there's only one, but it's there for the right matchups. Same with Starlight. There are decks you do not want to play Starlight against. Like, you will get destroyed if it triggers.
All right, you had a couple interesting experiences with Starlight Glimmer. Why don't you tell us about those?
I like playing her and letting her eat everything until she's 16 cards banished, and then you beat her up.
Give your opponent that little bit of hope that they might see some of those cards come into play,
Yeah, and then crush
and
it.
then be like, lol, nope.
Or I'll play it because I'm like, whatever, I might as well try it. And then it eats like all of my important things.
Like both of your Appaloosas.
She's a double-edged sword. Whatever. Starlight, she's
Yeah.
evil. Everyone's equal.
Now, the important thing to note about Starlight Glimmer is she's also very good at dealing with toolbox decks like the one we're about to see, simply because if she is defeated, unlike Discord Utter Pandemonium from Absolute Discord, those cards still aren't accessible. They're just gone forever.
Yeah, it only puts friends into play, right?
Yeah, friends and troublemakers.
And troublemakers, yeah.
And given the fact that we're also running 3 copies of Captain of the Seven Seas and 2 copies of Identity Theft, there's the very real possibility that even if Starlight does pop, even if that bomb does go off and we put all our friends and all our troublemakers banish this way into play, by the way, troublemakers still interplay face down.
Yes, they do.
We'll just still reset our opponent's board to only 1 friend. And our troublemakers won't actually be affected because they're face down, and she doesn't explicitly call them out. So sometimes it can be worth it to just let Starlight go through and blow up. Now, that being said, the deck is not without its share of, weak points. It is in mono orange, and that means it's a little limited in terms of what it can do for resource removal, in that it has 1 copy of Seabreeze's Flower that it can use to hit resources outside of face-offs, but otherwise it has to rely on Applejack's Epiphany. Or, if the opponent's playing wide on resources, Catajack. And it does take a little while to go online. I think all of us who have played it would agree with that, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be giving up several points before this actually gets itself in gear.
And
Which
if
is
you're
fine.
lucky, you can do like turn 3.
Yeah,
is starting to get online, but
yeah, that's true. Otherwise, you're going to concede the early game, and that's okay because you can definitely come back. The big thing that we have here with this deck is with all this power and with the ability to beat up several epic troublemakers that are present in this deck, we're not thrust into the same position as decks relying on photo finish or blackmail as their main source of point acceleration. We can just be confronting problems and winning face-offs. And we can do so without playing too many friends on the board. You'll notice all the friends we have here are pretty expensive, with Smooths being the cheapest one. But they also all have a relatively high power. Most of them are over efficient in terms of power, or at least efficient.
Yeah, I was going to say, they are all equally efficient, and some of them are more. But
Right.
yes.
And because of that, we don't actually need to play, 5 or 6 friends on the field at one point in time. In fact, we'd almost rather not and save that extra Captain Jack or the extra limestone or Carbolota or whatever until after we clear the board slightly. This means that you don't necessarily need to have a large hand to be able to establish a strong board presence. Now, you can still be hurt by cards like Party of One because Appaloosa does not protect against banishment. And if you concede too much of the early game and you don't necessarily get the right troublemakers in play or the right lockdown, it's also possible your opponent can just get away from you. Hot Wings has slipped by several times. But apart from that,
Fast.
go ahead.
Hot Wings can be crazy fast.
Yes, it can.
But it
But
can't
apart from
escape the
that-
captain.
Yeah, well, sometimes it can. It depends on if they leave a Gabby in play. Apart from that, though, you'll have answers to deal with most opposing threats, and it's just a matter of making sure you know what you need to keep in your opening hand against which particular matchups and how to kind of build up your board presence to try to get a lockdown.
And if all else fails and you mulligan and you still don't have a good hand, there's always the option of just playing Nightmare Moon and going burn the world.
Double Nightmare Moon turn 1. Or just 1. But I think that's about all that needs to be said about So Now Go Moon 1000 Years Bye Bye Banish Time. Shall we pass the torch to the Emperor?
I mean, I'll take it if you're passing it.
Go for it, Beagle. Tell us everything that I'm doing wrong in this deck and what I should actually be playing.
So first off, you need to take out all these orange cards. You should make them pink or purple, and then you should turn those colorless cards white.
Let me put this a little bit more succinctly. You should remove everything from that deck except for the mimics.
Yeah. Also, you're not using vinyl. Why aren't you using vinyl? I don't understand. In your pink, white, purple deck, why aren't you using vinyl? Anyway.
Well, yeah.
So this is Vinyl's Bag of Tricks 2.0. She pulled out her bag of tricks before the Defenders hit, so this is 2.0. And it has some tools. You might notice there are a lot of cards in this deck that have the number 1 or number 2 next to them, rather than the number 3. This has got more individual cards in it than Zipper will. That is kind of impressive. So how it works is it uses your card draw from Vinyl and your Meticulous from your Paper Twilights and your 3 gyros to find the answer that you need at the time you need it, and then use it. And then from there, you use f-stop to use it again, and maybe 10 more times. And yeah, so it's got some tricks. So let's see. Picking out some key cards here was actually kind of hard because the deck kind of just meshes well with each other. Like a bunch of cards just flow well with other cards and cover each other's weaknesses. But I think I've got some here. As Grandpa said, I'm going to cheat a little bit. My 4 cards is technically 6. My first card, quote unquote, is both Rainbow Shine and Paper Twilight. The deck runs effectively 6 AT generators. Rainbow Shine doesn't technically generate AT, but because your goal is to be playing lots and lots of events, she more or less counts. She also gets to double as purple entry because you can play her off of Trading Traditions. As such, it is sometimes correct to go, you know what, I am not going to flip Vinyl. I am going to play Rainbow Shine just to make sure that I have this purple. She also sometimes draws you cards.
What about Paper Twi?
And then Paper Twi, like I said, she she gives you Meticulous, and she gives you action tokens from her activated ability, and sometimes even from her prepared ability. So she might have 0 power, but she pulls her weight a lot. Just don't flip her. You'll be very sad. Not only because you probably lost the face-off, but because you really wanted that card in play, not on the bottom of your deck.
Now, question for you.
Sure.
If you're running 3 Paper Twilights in the deck, how many of them should be the foil versions from the theme deck?
I'm running 0. I'm a scrub.
Everything should be foil.
I only have the one.
I mean, not that everyone
and I put
doesn't.
it in my cube.
Not that everyone doesn't need 4 playsets of Paper Twi, because you do. But seriously, that is kind of expensive.
But yeah, anyway, these 2 cards give you the fuel to do the things that you want to do. Your turns can get very, very expensive. Like you can be spending upwards of 4 AT on any given turn, and it helps to have an extra income. This does make people want to play on even ground against you, and sometimes that can make you sad, but sometimes you don't really care because you've got so much AT gen, you're like, okay.
Yeah, uneven ground would be something that I would be okay with. It's like, okay, I'll spend my AT, and then next turn,
like I have more than you.
More. Yeah. Like it seems better for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they are the way that lets you get away with doing all of the things that this deck tries to do. The next key card, quote unquote, is Gyro and F-Stop, because Gyro finds the events that you need, which is why you only have one of most of these, and then F-Stop lets you play that same event over and over and maybe over again. So that you might see that these 2 and also the Rainbow Shines care a lot about events, which is what the deck is about. It's not Vinyl's bag of friends; it's Vinyl's bag of tricks.
It might as well be her bag of friends. It's got a lot of friends.
It does have a lot of friends. There are the only reason this deck isn't half friends is because it's at 22 out of 45. As close to half as you could get without being half.
Still more friends than events.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
anyways,
you clearly need to run 44 cards then.
Clearly, yes, that's the solution.
I don't know, if we look at deck counts for Gen Con, I think you need to run 52 or 53.
Well, was there 52 as well? Oh man,
I can't remember what the number was.
Okay, but yes, so they're the tag teaming duo here. Basically, if you don't luck out and draw your card through Vinyl or the Meticulous from Paper Twilight, Gyro finds it for you, and then if your opponent isn't packing Smooth, cough, or one of the other ways to get rid of your discard, F-Stop just lets you play it many, many times, much to dismay of many opponents. And the third key card here is actually not a 3 of. It is actually only a 2 of, and that would be Study Session. Study Session slows down a lot of decks, whether they're aggro or control. Many, many decks right now care about friends coming into play not exhausted. And the reason there's only 2 here is because you're drawing a lot of cards, so you can find them even though there's only 2. And a second copy usually doesn't do you very much because the ability doesn't stack. It's not like their friends come into play double exhausted or anything. But coming into play exhausted can hurt really hard. Like Paper Twilight's coming into play exhausted is not nearly as good as coming into play ready. Aggro decks can't confront those dilemmas they wanted to confront. And if you have a Vinyl Breakdown, then even better. They play their friends exhausted, then you play Vinyl Breakdown, and they don't have that friend that they invested in. And you still have Breakdown and Study Session. And then they look at you and go, why are you doing this to me? And the last key card, Grandpa's talked about it a little bit already. It's Changeling Mimics. No one's surprised. the ability to, the deck is very focused on handling the opponent's friends. You might have been able to tell just looking at these cards. Mimics is how you handle their events and resources, and it's by making them pay lots and lots for it. The Trollmakers is more or less covered by Aramosby, but you could make them pay for a Trollmaker, I guess, with Mimics. But usually you choose event or resource, depending on the situation.
I don't know, going against farming.
You play Aramosby.
Yeah, and you might have one. No, you'd have two Aramosbys up if you have them.
Well, you play one Aramosby and let the other one play their villain to the other problem. You're fine with that usually.
As long as it's not a Nightmare Man.
Yes, as long as it's not a Nightmare Man or Nightmare Star.
Or Nightmare Star. Nightmare Star's so good.
Anyway, there are also, being a toolbox deck, there are a lot of events, and you might want to know when to use certain events at certain times.
I mean, yeah, some people might. Before we go into that whole list, can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by a toolbox deck?
Oh, okay, sure. So a toolbox deck, the term gets its name from actual, literal, physical toolboxes, which have a lot of different implements or tools that each does a specific thing. Like a hammer hits nails, a saw cuts wood. You could, hammer in a nail with a saw. It would be very, very inefficient, however.
Those of us that shop at Harbor Freight are well versed in that one.
Sure. So the implication is that you it has a lot of one or two ofs that handle a very specific tool, and then you use that for that tool. For example, let's say you're playing against a deck that is running a lot of small friends. Well, Napcakes is going to be good there. Food Fight is not.
Okay. So now people have a better idea of what we're talking about. You want to have a lot of possible different answers, but you don't necessarily want to load up on just one situation.
Right.
Okay. So are you ready for the rapid fire round, Bugle?
Sure, let's do this.
Okay. So we're going to go through the events that you have in this deck that are singleton cards, and I want you to tell me.
So not Napcakes?
Huh? So not. I mean, we can cover Napcakes too.
Okay.
That's fine. So I want you to tell me in what situation you might specifically want to use that particular card. Okay.
Okay.
First up, Food Fight.
That one handles big friends. It's pretty obvious.
Yep, makes sense. Belly Flop.
This one can handle any friend, and its best case is in conjunction with Gyro. Lets you, for 2 AT, you can dismiss any friend, big or small, so long as you have the Gyro. I guess the actual better case is to use the awkward Quinceañera plus F-stop loop, but then people are mad at you.
Dream.
Yeah.
IVP, Interdimensional Portal.
So this has a lot of uses. This can get rid of resources on your friends, or it can just move the opponent's friends home. Or one really great use is to move your Zecora, who is at home or frightened or both, to a face-off that is the opponent using their main in, especially against Applejack.
It's pretty good. Napcake.
This one handles the small friends. It is especially good at the start of a face-off because it effectively is hard removal at that point. But sometimes you just want to use it to get rid of their entry over and over again.
Ponyville Emergency.
This one, it's best to protect your troublemakers or against farm. Sometimes if they have more than one friend, it's just good to, or more than one character, I should say. You can push multiple back. With an F-stop, it is effectively a TSUV that you can discount with Rainbow Shine.
Special Beam Cannon.
This one hits resources, pretty obvious.
Gasp. It's also the only thing in your deck that hits resources.
The only card, only one.
Frozen Imagicite.
This one is best against big friends or characters like Applejack. The fact that it's immediate lets you stop them both from farming epics or just any troublemaker and it also stops them from confronting, where Ponyville Emergency does not. The downside here, of course, is you can only move one character instead of two.
Magical Misfire.
This is for other discard recursion decks. It lets you get rid of all of them. Sometimes, or everything in their discard, rather. Sometimes it's also useful against abilities like, what is it called? The new one that was just introduced.
Experienced?
Experienced, yes. Sometimes you can use it on experienced friends, and suddenly your opponent has less power than they thought they did.
Cleaning up.
Cleaning up is here primarily to get back your cards that are in the discard that are not events, especially F-Stop, though sometimes you do want to get back an event. And the fact that it's immediate, sometimes you get this back with the F-Stop, and then when the opponent does something, you play the cleaning up to get back the correct event, rather than having to pick or play using the F-Stop and getting back the wrong event. Sometimes you also banish something from the opponent's discard that they care about.
Like in the mirror match, for example.
Right, in the mirror match, yeah. Or again, experienced.
Sure. Cracking the case.
This is here primarily for Nightmare Star. Most other troublemakers you don't care too much about. Then again, yellow parasprites are also pretty annoying, and sometimes Nightmare Moons. So you can get rid of those with Steps and Snails as well.
Is that experience speaking?
Maybe.
It might be. Party of one.
Your opponent has friends and you don't. Play Party of One. Now they have no friends.
Party of none. Party of fun.
Preferably you have one friend, maybe two. Many a time has there been, I have no friends, let me play Gyro, let me enter white. Suddenly Gyro is, where did everyone go? Why does no one want to hang out with the nerd?
It's because you're a nerd.
Nerd! Makeover.
This is mostly here to enter white. In emergency, it can also enter purple. Usually you want to use Singing Barrel, but Singing Barrel can't be discounted by Rainbow Shine.
I mean, that's true.
Or found with Gyro.
That's a fair point. Okay.
Or if the opponent has named resources with their mimics for some reason.
So it's interesting to note in kind of that, by the way, very well done. That was well prepared.
Except I didn't know the name of experienced.
Yeah, whatever, it's fine. It is interesting to note that there is a little bit of overlap between some of these tools, but there are still situations that each one is going to shine in. Like, for example, both Frozen in Magicite and Ponyville Emergency can serve as options for moving opposing characters, including opposing mains. But Ponyville Emergency is fine to use on your own turn, whereas Frozen in Magicite you kind of want to save because it's a little bit trickier, and you can try to bait the opponent into a position like starting a face-off to get the benefit of Prepared with Paper Twilight.
Right,
or
yeah,
to draw cards
draw
with Rainbow
cards.
Shine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the one is tricky, one is efficient, and which one is better depends on the matchup.
Yep, that's fair. So tell us a little bit, and Ara, you watched a little bit of this deck at Gen Con, just a little, like 8 hours worth of this deck. Either one of you, tell us a little bit about how it performs.
It's pretty reliable, despite the fact that it has a lot of one-ofs. Like I said, the Gyros, the extra card draw, and the Meticulous, you tend to have what you want in your hand when you need it. And sometimes, like a lot of control decks, like you said with So Now Go Moon, etc., they give up the early game. They just say, I have no early game, you can have it. This deck, depending on your opening draw, sometimes you go, no, the early game is mine. As I mentioned in my Gen Con report, I actually had a game against Hot Wings where I ended the game 13-0.
It's pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, Hot Wings isn't known for its inability to score points.
That's kind of ouch, I think. This...
To be fair, you did the exact same thing against AJ.
Sure.
Yeah. So my thoughts on this are, because this is a control deck of like the controlliest control, This can be
that
kind
ever
of
did control.
that ever did control. This can be kind of hard to pilot. Bugle
Oh
is
yeah, absolutely.
probably one of the better, if not the best pilot I've seen drive this thing. And it's kind of scary how he makes this weird move and like 3 turns later, it's like, oh. That's what that was for.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the R. Mosby play against Richard?
Not necessarily.
Okay, yeah.
There-
I know a lot of people were confused as to why I played cleaning up to get back my 3rd R. Mosby to play it under an R. Mosby. And then Captain Jack hit, and it's like, okay, now I still have 2 R. Mosbys.
Well, that's just insurance.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing that really good pilots at this will be able to just be like, yeah, I totally saw that coming. Might have been serendipity, but I totally saw that coming.
So it obviously has a lot of options. Does it have any weak points?
Yes, it does. The most obvious weak point is it relies very heavily on its discard pile. If your opponent is running anything that can muck with your discard pile, not even just getting rid of the cards, like even like Changeling Infiltrator kind of things can muck with discard piles, you find yourself in a much weaker position. Similarly, it is 3-color. That means it has to, the cards have to align in the correct order. If you draw all your white cards early and no barrels or makeovers or gyros, then you can't really do much.
And then you are sad.
Yeah, then you're sad. So
Yeah.
while the 3rd color gives it some useful tools, that's while being a 3rd color gives you a lot of extra tools, it is also a liability. If you can't enter it, then they're just dead cards. It is also unusual for some, in some ways, and that it is a control deck that is running lots and lots of friends, and it is very reliant on them. So if the opponent is also running a heavy removal strategy, you can have trouble, as you might have seen in that final match at Gen Con. Like, he had much better removal than I did, and continually had a better board state than I did.
There is one fairly big weak point of this, which admittedly is kind of common to control, but this really, really hates the round clock.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it can, like I said, while it can sometimes take the early game, sometimes you do have to sacrifice that early game, and it can't always score points. Like, its only point acceleration is blackmail and photo finish.
Yeah, my biggest problem playing this deck was always it depends on what you're up against, but a lot of times you have singleton copies of all these events. One of them gets banished, and it's the event you need. Well, you're out of luck.
Yeah, then you're gone. Yeah. So yeah, it's not even just. So I guess I should amend my earlier statement when I said discard pile hate. I should have meant like a targeted hate or whatever, because like Discord or Glimmer getting rid of your singletons that's not good.
I mean, Misfire is pretty bad too.
Yeah, Misfire is very bad.
Card removal in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another huge weakness, and this is the reason it's actually running 2 Napcakes instead of just the 1, is it really does want that trading traditions in play for quite a while. There becomes a point where you're willing to get rid of it, but that is its primary way of having purple.
Yeah.
So if the opponent does get rid of it, you can be a little sad.
It's like, I have 3 Twilight Paper Twies in play. Yay. Oh wait, I have 0 purple power.
That is 0.
Overall, though, it's performed very well at a number of different events, either in this incarnation or a slightly previous one.
Right, yeah.
And I do definitely think this incarnation is stronger. It's almost like Mimics can carry control.
Yeah.
Mimics and F-stop, man. Going from 1 F-stop to 3 F-stops was really, really important.
Yeah, but you didn't go to 5 F-stops.
No. No, I did not.
You know what's better than 3 f-stops?
5 f-stops. No, 3 f-stops is correct.
I mean, cleaning up is like the 4th f-stop, sort of.
I mean, sure. And if we're counting that, then you've also got 3 gyros, which you can find cleaning up. So that's really like 7.
Yeah, 7 f-stops. There you go.
Okay, sure.
Every deck should be playing 7 f-stops. So let's just be honest here.
I mean, I can't really argue with that.
I
Okay.
mean, often I've wanted f-stops in So Now Glow Moon 1000 Years by Vanish Time.
I mean, yeah.
Well, the problem is, we went mono orange.
I'm fine with it. There's some consistency there. I mean, you've got Infiltrator if you really need to get stuff back in the deck. All right. So I think that's a pretty good look at each of these decks here. Do we have any additional comments we'd like to make regarding either of the deck lists or questions from people in chat?
Yeah, questions would be cool. I guess I do have one like really small, minor niche thing. If you are playing VBot and you are playing against a deck that they don't care about their discard at all, don't just ignore your magical misfires. Just exhaust Rainbow Shine and play it at the end of one of their turns just to draw a card for 0 AT. It's better than just discarding it.
Yep.
It's super niche, but sometimes it's handy. It looks like Railer apparently built something Bag of Trixie.
But there's no Trixies in this deck.
Yes, I realized immediately after saying that was a bad way of phrasing that.
Tricksy.
Yes.
Now, the question
Wait,
is...
Trixie the Clown?
Sure. The question is, when we actually get a Trixie card worthy of being put in here, does the deck name change to Vinyl's Bag of Trixie?
Maybe.
I mean, it would kind of take a lot of Trixies.
I mean, you can run the Troublemaker. The Troublemaker's fine.
I don't think
well.
Trixie is okay with this.
The Troublemaker had been considered and just never quite made it in.
That's fair.
Like, I actually went from 3 Nightmare Moons to 0 epics at all.
I remember that, yeah.
Oh, I guess one thing that's actually, this is true of toolbox decks in general. The tools aren't, you shouldn't assume they are set in stone. You should adjust them based off of the meta that you are expecting. Because like, you might have noticed there was no Destiny Drain. That was based off of the meta that I expected.
No combo. Oh wait, there was one combo.
There was one.
combo.
Yeah.
It was one.
But
Destiny
this
Drain
deck
wasn't
can
gonna do it.
handle it without Destiny Drain.
Right, yeah. Anyway, it looks like, doesn't look like we're getting any questions. So did we want to move on to our super special announcement thing?
I mean, that seems exciting to me. I've been sitting here like Pinkie Pie, ready to explode like a rocket.
Are you nervous-sighted?
I am nervous-sighted. I'm a little worried about what exploding is actually going
Is
to
that
be like.
we're excited?
Worried about being nervous-sighted? We're a nervous-sighted. I'll spell that out. in
I don't
chat
believe
later.
these are real things.
Nervous-sighted is. That's
You don't think that's a real word?
No,
You don't think Pinky just makes up words?
I do think.
No. Pinky doesn't make up words. Pinky comes up with words that have just recently appeared in the dictionary.
Well, regardless of the linguistic discussions that we can have here, should we make this announcement before we run out of time?
Yes.
No.
Yes, we should.
No, I think we should sit here and quibble more about which color of Starburst is best.
Blue and gold.
What?
Well, it's or white.
You
and
dirty
gold.
Ravenclaw. Get out.
All right. So, Sim has been producing content for 3 years. It's about 3 years now, isn't it?
I'd say it's about 2.5, a little more than that.
Okay. So, approaching 3 years.
Because we started 3 Everfrees ago.
Right. So, In that time, we've done some event organization, a lot of live streaming of tournaments,
A lot of live streaming of tournaments.
and of course remote commentary to go along with a good number of those as well.
Yeah, sometimes when we should have gone to sleep, but we stayed up.
Sometimes, yes. We've also had fun producing a lot of videos like these, tips and tricks that people can use, deck discourses to feature individual decks, the unfinished Know Your Opponent series to give strategies playing particular deck styles, meta retrospectives, all kinds of different things, even featured duels.
Freaking 9-hour spoiler set discussions.
Those are the best. I love those. I hate those.
Everyone
it.
loves those.
Yes, clearly. And we're interested in continuing to do this. And
Very interested.
Interested enough to where we've kind of got a plan together where people who have been following us, who have liked us on Facebook, subscribed to us on YouTube, otherwise are invested in this content and would like ways that they can help get more involved or even to support our efforts, which, as we mentioned, just about every time we run a stream or a tournament event, are not free. There are costs associated with, bringing that equipment out there and running data. We have put together a new tool to allow people to get involved, and that is, we have a Patreon page finally. And I am so excited for this.
As discussed, very nervous-sided.
Very, very nervous-sided. So Sim is now on Patreon. And that means that there are all kinds of neat opportunities and rewards that our viewers can actually earn.
Viewers like you.
Viewers just like you. Are we doing this, the PBS and support from viewers like you?
Yes.
I'm glad I picked up what you were putting down there. So our Patreon, we're going to link, as well as all our other contact information here in chat in just a moment. But to briefly go over it, the goal with us having a Patreon is to, number one, be able to continue to produce more and more content of the highest quality for this game, which we all love so much.
Yeah, remember those breaks that we said we're not taking? Yeah, this will help us take even fewer breaks.
No breaks.
No
maybe
breaks
like,
on this train.
Maybe like Christmas when no one's going to be watching us.
I mean, they might watch us if we produce content.
Fair point.
I'm not obligating you guys to Christmas already. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't know about you. My family get-togethers are great for the first couple of hours, and then I want to go hide somewhere.
Go in a corner. Go in your nest.
Yes.
And play with the ponies.
Yeah.
I'll be in this corner playing with ponies.
So this will not only help us continue to produce content, but it will help cover some of the costs associated with doing so we can do so at a greater level of quality and a greater frequency as well. You may have noticed that we have been kind of all across North America in the last month. Travel is kind of expensive, and moving expensive camera equipment is expensive, and getting data to stream a bunch of equipment is expensive. And while we've been able to do okay with that in the past, this would simply open even more opportunities. But perhaps even more than just getting funding. One of the best things that Patreon would allow you as followers and supporters of Commentary is Magic to do is to get involved in the creation of that content. And this is really, really cool. This is what I'm most excited about. So while we have the various reward tiers available there on Patreon for you to see in detail, we'll just briefly go over a couple of the different ways that you can support and then share our first 3 goals with you. For those of you who don't know, and I suppose we should have started with this, Patreon is a website where individuals can make a monthly donation or subscription basically to content creators. This can be things like videos or music or games or whatever it happens to be. And in this case, it just happens to be for us creating live streams and video and other content for this card game. So unlike Kickstarter, where you have to make a large one-time donation, you can make small monthly donations. And it makes it easier to be able to continuously support groups and individuals that you like. At the most basic tier that we have, which is the Background Pony tier, you get access to our polls, which are normally patron only, and credits in our videos, because we want to thank you. A step up from there are side characters, which means that you would also get access to our Slack channel, where you can communicate with us and with other patrons as well. And you can even submit decks to be covered on a future Deck Doctor or Deck Check post or video. So that can actually have your deck ideas featured on some of Sim's streams. The Great and Powerful Patreon is the next step up from that. That one allows you to actually continuously submit deck lists that can be featured on our videos, and even challenge a member of Sim in a live duel, which would be pretty cool with some special rules there. And the main 6 tier would allow you to actually help plan out an entire stream to focus on a CCG topic of your choice, and get you early access to the villain challenge cards that we occasionally design, so you can be part of the testing process in that early on.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that, giving people early access to the villain challenge, because we have some cool ideas that we've had to put on the back burner because, surprise, there was a huge competitive season.
Basically. But don't worry, we haven't forgotten about it.
No, we've definitely not. We have ideas for at least 2 more villains. And that's just right now.
We keep making these references to Villain Challenge Zippo, but...
Well, okay, sure.
I mean, that might happen someday. And then apart from just the individual rewards for backers, we also have some goals based on total donations or total subscriptions overall. So this is something that rewards everybody, and this is really cool. This means that even if you can't necessarily support Sim yourself, or not at the level that you'd like to, just by letting other players know about this Patreon, you might still end up getting the reward, reaping the rewards and the benefits of us meeting these fundraising goals.
Yeah, these goals are basically public. Like, they help everybody, not just patrons.
The first goal that we have is to launch a special Q&A stream if we reach $100 per month, where we'll read your comments and questions live and give away some cool product. We'd actually be giving that away live, so that's a neat opportunity for people to get some special prizes. The tier up from that...
You like free stuff? We like giving free stuff.
Everyone likes free stuff. It's the best question to ask at cons, right? Who likes free stuff?
Yeah. We don't have a t-shirt cannon that fires through the internet yet, but we do have a team working on that.
I have several serious safety concerns with this.
We will ignore those safety concerns.
Yeah.
At the next tier, we'll actually open signups monthly for exhibition matches against either Sim members or other patrons, whichever you choose, which would be broadcast live on Twitch with commentary from other Sim members who are not actively participating in that duel. So this is just a brand new type of content that we would be able to produce if we reach that particular goal, because it would allow us to form the communication networks and make sure that the technology is set up and we have the time to do so. And then, should we talk about perhaps the lofty goal, but the one that would be...
I think this is the most exciting one. Like, I think we have to.
Go ahead, Beagle. Tell us about it.
Okay, so you guys like tournaments, right?
Yeah.
What if Sim made a tournament? Like, wouldn't that be cool?
But we make tournaments at cons.
Yeah, but this would be a special tournament. Possibly one that might have some special prizes.
And it wouldn't be at a con?
And it wouldn't be at a con, no. It would...
Wait, but I thought cons were tournaments. Do things other than tournaments happen at cons?
Things other than tournaments happen at cons, yes.
I mean, like bad fanfic reading, I guess.
Oh, yeah, I guess it does happen.
But yes, the plan for Sim is to actually eventually run and organize our own tournament outside of the con season, outside of the main competitive season, and make it accessible and open to anyone who wants to participate, and offer some really cool prizes
Really cool prices, yeah.
Potentially even cash prizes. We will have to see about that.
That is the end term goal, but that does, of course, require on whether or not we can support that, which is why it's the big goal.
Right, exactly. But just so you know that this is not all just trying to build hype with no plan behind it. We actually have a plan for content release for the next 2 weeks here, at least. And we're going to be sharing that on our Patreon feed. So make sure that you support us on Patreon, if at all possible, so you can get access to those polls, so you can watch our feed as well, and you can see what's coming up. To kind of give you a sneak preview, next week, I believe we're going to be running kind of a tactics stream, right?
Yeah, it's a new feature. We talk a lot about strategy, but we don't talk very much about tactics. The difference, for those who are unfamiliar, is strategy is like your long-term goals, and tactics is the individual now, what do I do now kind of moments. And both are very important to a CCG, and we've mostly just been talking strategy. So I thought it would be cool if we could talk some tactics.
So that will be next week. And then the week after that, we're going to have another live duel. Is that right?
That's the goal, yeah. And we don't know what decks we're going to play yet. And the reason for that is because you guys get to choose. Our patrons get to choose what decks we're going to play.
That's right. Even people who are supporting with just $1 a month are going to be able to vote on some polls that we're going to put up in the next day or so. Bugle and I believe, are going to be the sacrificial lambs for this first start to the duel series again. Is that right?
Yeah, that seems to be the plan right now.
And we'll each present 3 possible decks that we can play, or at least broad descriptions of them.
Right.
And you, as patrons, will get to vote on who plays what.
Yeah, you get to vote on your favorite matchup. I guess we could possibly do it, vote on each deck individually. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
There's all kinds of stuff going on, though. We've got plans for content that we've never actually produced before. You'll notice things like, at the great and powerful tier, Blitz-style games or Iron Chef-style games. And those have some pretty cool rules. If Cursed is still around, he's familiar with the Blitz style and can probably attest to its utter chaos.
What we should really do is we should play mental ponies on stream. That'll be exciting, right?
That would be.
Those games take so long to play.
They do take so long to play.
So following us on Patreon is going to be a great opportunity to get even more updates on what we plan on creating. And we will be linking to our Patreon more frequently on our Facebook channel or Facebook page, and mentioning it in our videos as well, which you can still see here on Twitch. This is, I think it's important to know that we're not putting ourselves behind a paywall here.
Right, yes. All of our content is still going to be available to everyone, right?
Right. This simply gives those individuals who like what we do a means of supporting us that's a little bit easier, and more flexibility and more control over what sort of content they'd like to see. There's nothing, there's the phrase money talks. If you guys and gals like seeing particular types of videos, if you want to see videos we haven't done before, this is a great way to send us that message.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, and I'm curious to see the people who submit the main 6 tier. I'm curious to see what kind of things they want to see us talk about, for sure. Though, knowing my luck, someone's going to do that and just go, "Hey, let's talk about how great Trixie is for 2 hours."
I mean, we will have a culinary expert come in and discuss the health benefits of pine cones.
Somebody better do this now. I want to see this happen.
Hey, they can. If they want to talk about Trixie and pine cones and can tie it into the CCG somehow, all they have to do is support at the main character level, and they can make a whole stream about it.
They can, absolutely, yeah.
Please, someone do this. I want to see Bugle, just crying in the corner.
Trixie's okay now. She's not worst pony anymore.
Yep. The
Though
control.
that last episode, she. No,
no,
I'm not talking
no
politics.
spoilers.
I'm not talking
No,
politics.
No spoilers.
Spoilers. Anyway, I think it's safe to say, and I hope you can tell from our reactions, we're all really jazzed about this. This is going to be fun. And if for some reason you can't support us on Patreon, that's fine. We understand. If you'd still like to assist us, you can still make one-time donations through the same PayPal account. That is still in existence. You can still see Fluttershy with her basket down there on Twitch. Look at her. She's adorable. Every bit helps. So if you particularly like one particular stream or tournament that we do, feel free to make a one-time donation. Every little bit helps.
Mm-hmm.
With that, though, I am excited to see what people are able to provide us in terms of feedback. And tell us, how else can they provide us feedback, Arakat?
Oh, you're going to make me do this, huh? Okay, well, you can contact us multiple different ways. Well, just paste something into the chat here. We evidently have a Facebook site, which I guess I don't use Facebook, so I suppose it's great. Bugle, tell me it's great. Wait, Bugle doesn't use Facebook
I
either.
also don't use Facebook.
It's
Dang it.
great.
Yay.
I swear it's really great.
You swear it's gonna work? It's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
We have a email address, so if you're old school, you can do that. We got a Twitter account, and new to our lineup, of course, is the Patreon page. And for those of you who get into the Patreon tiers that give you access to the Slack channel, you can bother us there too.
So many ways to be bothered. Not bothered.
Of course, you're
We
not
love
bothering us. We love you.
No. We love you. Well, that was a big announcement, and I'm really stoked. I'm looking forward to this. I'm also looking forward to the 3 incredibly stupid deck submissions that I'm going to put up on this poll for our duel in 2 weeks, Bugle. Well, one of them will be fine. The other 2 will be pretty dumb. Public time, thanks for joining us here in the last half of it. Don't worry if you ended up missing half this stream. All of our videos are available on our YouTube channel. They're also available here on Twitch as VODs. You can see them under the highlights and under our videos. And in fact, one of the best things we could use from people who do like this content is for you to subscribe to us on YouTube. It's completely free. And it would help us get a channel address that is not garbledigook. Not gobbledygook, garbledigook. I said that intentionally.
Garble.
Is
Yeah.
it because you don't like garble?
Look at this. Look at this mess. Can you remember this? I can't remember this.
It would be so much better to just have it say /channel/commentary is magic.
It really would.
It really would.
100 subscribers gets us to that point. Please help us. Make like 5 YouTube accounts and then subscribe to our channel.
This
Don't-
sounds bad.
Don't actually do this. This probably gets someone
No.
yelled at.
Probably gets us yelled at.
Oh, awesome. We already have some patrons here.
Oh, do we? That's exciting. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank
we
you.
unfortunately can't add you to the slide today, but
We will definitely add you to the slide on our next
Yeah.
video, which
Look-
will
yeah.
be... It'll be
Look-
live on Sunday, correct?
yeah. Yeah, it looks like we are already $32 out of our first goal. That's pretty exciting. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone. We really do appreciate it. With that, though, I think we're ready to go and start making some plans for next week, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you again from all of us here at Commentary is Magic. We hope that you'll find those 2 decks that we covered exciting to play and present you some fun control opportunities that each have some very different play styles, or at least inspire you to build some control decks of your own. And we will see you next week for our live stream discussion on Tactics Talk for Mulligans, I believe.
I believe Mulligans is the first plan, yes. Mulligans is something that every deck does, so it seemed like a good first place to start.
Until then, though, thank you for joining us. I am, as always, Grand Pause.
I am Emperor Bugle.
Big cheese.